Hi, my name's Dr. Ross Hauser. Welcome to the Hauser Neck Center here in Fort Myers, Florida. I'm going to finally attempt to do a short video, so I only have one slide. But obviously before that, I just want to encourage everybody to be a blessing to others. We're about 1 month before the election of the president and senators and people in the House of Representatives, and there's just so much negativity. Like, we all have reasons to be negative. I'm doing this video just a few days after Hurricane Helene put 3 feet of water in Mary and I's house. So again, we got to muck up the stuff, spend a bunch of money to get our properties, and I went Debbie Downer this weekend. Because again, we did this. Anybody who knows me and has watched our videos could see the 2 videos I made after Hurricane Ian, where Mary and I got 9 feet of water in our house and had to just spend months and months and months in a rental house and different things. And just today, after Hurricane Helene, we just got power. So we were without power for like 5 days, and just kind of a mess on our neighborhood. But I had to, over the weekend, just realize I have a lot of blessings. You have a lot of blessings. You might have all kinds of symptoms and feel terrible, but meditating on the terrible, or the Republicans are terrible, or the Democrats are terrible, like God in the Bible says the one debt we owe to everybody is to love each other. To love each other. And anybody who reads the Bible will know that Jesus, as it relates to the Romans, every time he talked about the Romans, he always talked about it in a good light, right? And the one person in the Bible that amazed Jesus, right? The people were amazed by Jesus and all the healings, but the one person that amazed Jesus was the Roman centurion, the faith of the Roman centurion, as depicted in Matthew chapter 8 and Luke chapter 7. That Roman centurion, the Jewish leader said, that guy built our synagogue, he loves our nation. And then his servant was sick. Well, his servant was actually a slave. So the Roman centurion wanted Jesus to come heal one of his slaves. And the Jewish leaders encouraged Jesus to go because the guy was so kind to the Jewish people. And then when Jesus was on the way, the Roman centurion said, hey, people are under my authority. Like, I tell this person to do this and that, and they do it, just like you're under authority. I am not worthy of you to come into my house. You just say the word and my servant will be healed. And Jesus, that very hour, the servant was healed without Jesus even being there. And it said that Jesus was amazed. He said he hadn't seen such great faith in all of Israel. So there's something about this Roman centurion, that the Romans were supposed to be enemies of the Jews, and the Romans were kind to them. Just like all of us, we got to get back to just being kind to each other. We can have disagreements of, what the government should do, but all this anger and all this hatred. About 2 to 3 months ago, I made a decision to not be watching the news. Like, I don't watch any of it because it's not in my ministry jurisdiction. Like, how Ross Hauser is supposed to spend his time is to try to explain to people what's the cause of human disease so they can do something about it, right? I make these videos so you know what's causing your condition. I don't make them so you come to see me. Like, there's some people that need to come here, but I give lots of tips all the time to try to get people. There's going to be people who watch this in Mongolia, Liberia, China, all different places, and I'm making these to try to help, right? The Bible says that God makes it rain on the good and the evil. Like, in other words, God sends rain on people that follow him and people that don't follow him. On all the people. So Ross Hauser, you, all the people that are watching me now, We're called by God. You owe a debt to every person on the planet to love them, to love them. The Bible says, bless your enemies, do good to those who persecute you. So if you're upset with somebody, try to think about how you can be a blessing to them. And I could tell you stories in the office of people. Well, I'll just tell you one quick story. Basically, somebody was having a terrible time with somebody at work, right? And I said to her, I said, why don't you take him out to lunch? Take him out to lunch. Just ask him questions about himself, because people love to talk about themselves. And then if you find out he likes apple pies, bake him an apple pie. And then basically in one lunch, the whole thing got resolved. You know, because the average person who's mean to people, they've had people mean to them. So either the mean people are going to make you mean, or your goodness or your wanting to help will change them. And I want to be on the side of good, on the side of help. And I would just encourage, especially Christian people who are supposed to be following the Bible and the Lord, let's be a blessing to people and serve people. And it doesn't mean that we don't call out sin as sin, but you can't have that the primary thing. The primary thing has to be, like Jesus, the main people he condemned was the Jewish leaders. He didn't condemn the people that weren't believers. Like the Romans, he didn't condemn them. I'm not saying he condoned them, but he served them. And he said to the Jews that you should, like if a Roman soldier asks you to carry the backpack a mile, carry it 2 miles. You know, or whatever. He like go above and beyond to try to help people. So probably I didn't get within the 5 minutes of this one slide, but I just wanted to, you know, like I wanted us, let's just try to get back to like helping each other. And life is very exciting when you're in the helping business, right? Because then there's worth, you're making a big difference, you know, and we all have parts of the world that we're in charge of. So one of the parts that I'm somewhat in charge of, as God gives me wisdom and my team wisdom about the cause of human disease, right? You would want me to share it, right? So that's where we spend our time. I put this up here just as one thing, because I want you to think about if you have symptoms of being upright and it makes it worse, brain fog, changes in hearing, visual distortions, light and sound sensitivity, headaches, dizziness, nausea, neck pain, ringing in the ears, bloating, and other symptoms, and you've been given some other diagnosis. You might have been given the diagnosis, oh, this is caused by Meniere's disease, by mold toxicity. You have chronic fatigue syndrome. You possibly have cerebrospinal fluid leaks. You have chronic Lyme. You have multiple chemical sensitivity. You have hypersensitivity syndrome. You know, or fibromyalgia. You have a host of symptoms, and you've been given some diagnosis on this side. I want you to realize all these symptoms can be from ligamentous cervical instability. Like the amount of people that come to Caring Medical with cerebral, they've been told they have cerebrospinal fluid leaks, or they think they have. And when I do all the diagnostic testing and and you try to do different kinds of myelograms and different things, it's just not found. I'm not saying that cerebrospinal fluid leaks don't occur, but if you've been assessed for that, or you've had blood patches and it hasn't done anything, or you're on a mold program, you know, you've taken different medications or antibiotics for Lyme's or this or that, or you're on a really restrictive leaky gut, right? Leaky gut syndrome can cause all this, and you're not getting resolution, well, it's likely you probably have ligamentous cervical instability. So other signs and symptoms of ligamentous cervical instability are clicking of the neck, neck pain, and especially if it occurred after a trauma to the neck. Now, you could have a one-time trauma like a car accident or a high-velocity manipulation by a chiropractor. You could have a fall, you could have a sports injury, you could have concussions, right? Or you can get ligamentous injury just by poor posture while you're looking down at a cell phone, while you're in front of a computer, and gradually you get all these symptoms. So if the symptoms are from this, the treatment has to be structural. So the treatment involves tightening of the ligaments with prolotherapy, correcting your cervical curve with cervical curve correction exercise, proper posture when you're looking at your computer or a cell phone, and obviously if there's misalignments, correcting those misalignments. And then if you do that, likely there's going to be resolution or a lessening of these symptoms.